What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome to the hype video for the Philadelphia Eagles versus Atlanta Falcons season opener. Now, why are the Eagles in the season opener, you may be asking yourself? Oh, because they won the Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but when you win the Super Bowl, you get to be in the season opener. And that actually might be a little bit of a disadvantage for the Philadelphia Eagles, considering the injuries and stuff that we had. If maybe we were playing on Sunday, we might have more so our starting running back, 100%. You know, maybe better luck at getting Alshon Jeffrey in. But it is what it is, man, and we're going to jump into the hype video, and we're going to be as optimistic as possible, because why not? We're the underdogs. Why not open up week one as the underdogs? So these videos here, we go through 10 talking points for each individual game, and then we always conclude with my prediction of said game. So let's get into it. At number 10, Nick Foles has been announced the starting quarterback by Doug Peterson today, which I'm recording this the 3rd of September, which is not a surprise. Everyone pretty much assumes that Carson Wentz will play week 3, week 4, somewhere in that range. So we're going to be going with a Big Dick Nick for this opening game. And when was the last time Nick Foles played the Falcons? Oh, it was last year in the playoffs during the divisional round where we won 15-10. Nick Foles in that game went 23 of 30, 250 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. That was a game of ups and downs. We had some fluky plays where Nick Foles threw a pretty shitty ball. It went off like a defender's knee for the Falcons in the secondary, went right into the hands of Torrey Smith, and I think that drive ended up being a touchdown for the Eagles, which, I mean, just looking at the score, that could have been the difference maker. But when you look at the score, it doesn't really tell the whole side of the game. Sure, that Nick Foles game, is that going to be good enough for Nick Foles puts up that stat line for Philly to win again? Maybe, maybe not. But what Nick Foles did in that game was just, I don't want to say, it sounds kind of like you're underselling. He coasted. He just did what he had to do. He moved the ball, can move the chains. All you got, don't turn the ball over. Move the chains, don't turn the ball over. Let the strengths of this Eagles team, the line of scrimmage, offensive, defensive lines, run game, let that flex. Let that flex on the Falcons. We should be able to coast to a victory again if all those things stay the same. But going from the Nick Foles as our starter, we'll go right into point number 9. Is Nick Foles looked like dog shit during the preseason. This preseason was maybe the worst preseason I've ever watched as Eagle football. It was so boring. It was like a chore. But Nick Foles was running vanilla plays. He was running that Jeff Fisher offense. Nothing epitomizes vanilla plays more so than Jeff Fisher. But the RPOs, the schemes, everything that Doug Peterson did to make Nick Foles the Super Bowl MVP, to win the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, was all about Doug Peterson's play calling and his schemes. We weren't going to show any of that during the preseason. We're going to see a night and day better Nick Foles than what we saw during the preseason. Still a little worried about the chemistry. There's zero, even though we assume that when they go to the RPOs and they get off the vanilla play calling from the preseason, that everything's going to go back to normal. We're going to get that team that got in the shootout and beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. We don't know that's going to be for a fact, and I kind of feel like the fact that there's zero chemistry. A bunch of our offensive starters haven't been playing. This unit does not seem cohesive at all versus an Atlanta Falcons team that's raring to go. A little bit worried about that right now. We'll talk about that at another point, but one could assume that when the RPOs and the actual Doug Peterson offense kicks back in, we're not going to see this Nick Foles that struggled immensely during the preseason. Point number 8, injuries. Oh boy. No Carson Wentz. Jay is not at 100%. No Alshon Jeffrey. No Timmy Jernigan. No Nigel Bradham. When you look at the Atlanta Falcons, all their stars are healthy. Matt Ryan, Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, their offensive line, Tack McKinley, Vic Beasley, Deion Jones, Desmond Trufant, Keanu Neal. All those guys are 100% healthy, ready for week 1, looking to avenge the playoff game, looking to start 1-0, get all that momentum, because their division is going to be a dogfight, especially between the Saints and the Panthers. They need this victory as much as any team does. So we got a lot of injuries. Philly is not coming into this game 100%. I kind of feel like, why not, right? Why not? Why not be the underdogs in this environment? Why not be the underdogs in a home opener? We are raising the team's first ever Super Bowl banner. Why not be able to encapsulate that energy, that momentum, that mentality that won us the Super Bowl just for one more week? Because we know next week, again, week 2 against the Bucs, even with Nick Foles, even with some of these injuries, that's not going to be there. We're still going to be expected to beat one of the worst rosters in the league with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. But this game against Atlanta, against a playoff caliber team, I'm not going to say that this is good. I really, really would like to see Philly not have to encapsulate the underdog mentality and just be our 100% full strength lineup and just dominate teams. But if there had to be a scenario where we're going to be missing a bunch of players, I feel like this week 1 game against Atlanta, with everything that is going to be going on in the background, from the stadium noise to the hypeness to what we're gonna have to do on offense with no Carson Wentz, with Nick Foles as our starter, I feel like why not just get those underdog masks out one more time. So peeling off from those injuries, let's talk about some players. So with Jay not at 100%, Corey Clement could have the opportunity to be the running back one of our running back by committee. Now, you always want to get the most of your running backs. Running backs are like a set of tires. You pretty much want to run them till they're bald, and then you throw them to the curb. It's pretty easy to assume that Darren Sproles and Jay, this is going to be their last year as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. Darren Sproles for retirement. Jay, I can't see him getting a contract extension. So you kind of want to get the most out of them this year, knowing that they're going to be just gone. They're going to be thrown to the curb this offseason. But you know which one of these running backs from our committee is not going to be gone? And that's Corey Clement. Corey Clement, undrafted free agent last year. 450 yards from scrimmage, 6 touchdowns as our running back 3. And most people, you know, if you're not super in on the Eagles, you assume Corey Clement is a receiving back because some of his highlights were catches at the backfield, and ultimately he did take that Darren Sproles receiving back role. When you look at him, he's 5'11", 220 pounds. That is a 3-down back build. So I think that if Jay's not 100%, I would give Corey Clement the top spot in the backfield, and I hope he gets the most touches because I want to see what he can do. It's never too early to kind of look into the future and see what we might have here as a 3-down runner in Corey Clement. So that is definitely something I want to keep an eye on for this game. Number 6, going to the wide receivers, no Alshon Jeffrey. That is probably that's really annoying not to have an Alshon Jeffrey out there, especially because, you know, he looked pretty damn good in his matchup against Desmond Trufant. It was a battle, though. It was a good battle. So now we're going to have to rely on Mike Wallace on the outside for sure. I don't think he's had a single catch in the preseason, but we do know, even though he's up there in age, still one of the better deep threats in the league. And then who's going to be the other outside wide receiver? It's going to be Shelton Gibson, who probably looked like the best skill position player on the team during the preseason. Or they can take Nelson Aguilar out of the slot and have him go on the outside. Now, I think, again, kind of thinking forward like Corey Clement, maybe we throw Nelson Aguilar on the outside, see if he's going to be warranted of a big-time contract, because right now he's playing on his, you know, whatever, the rookie option deal, so he has to get this offseason a new deal if we're going to resign him. And we're not the Cleveland Browns. We don't have the luxury or really the bad roster management to pay a slot wide receiver outrageous amount of money. So if Nelson Aguilar plans to be this outside guy for the Eagles, or just as an outside wide receiver, in the absence of Alshon Jeffrey, let's see it. Let's see if he can make plays on the outside. All beat reporters have been saying Nelson Aguilar looks faster than ever. Well, I want to see that speed on the outside. I want to see him go up against a Desmond Trufant, one of the better corners in the game, and make some goddamn plays and to show that he is worth that massive deal that he probably wants to try to get, especially seeing some of the massively inflated wide receiver contracts that have gone around the National Football League. So, again, more so a view of maybe the future of our team and roster management. But, I mean, with Mike Wallace, with Nelson Aguilar, with Shelton Gibson, these guys here kind of highlight, you know, the strength of Nick Foles. The strength of Nick Foles is his deep ball. You just, that play action, the flea flicker against the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, the Torrey Smith, that was like maybe the prettiest deep ball I've ever seen. So the fact that we just got a lot of speed in the outside, that is going to give Nick Foles a chance to make plays downfield, and it kind of highlights his strength going into this matchup. Going to number 5, kind of sticking with the injuries lastly. It's not really an injury, it's a suspension of Nigel Bradham. The linebackers terrify me. The linebackers absolutely terrify me. Outside of Jordan Hicks, who needs to dominate and carry the load here, Camus Grugier-Hill, Nate Jerry trying to cover Tevin Coleman out the backfield. That is a massive mismatch for the Atlanta Falcons. I've already had dreams right now of like, oh, look, Tevin Coleman caught the ball, and oh, Nate Jerry whiffed on a tackle, and oh, Jesus, he got some speed. It's a foot race, and our safeties, Malcolm Jenkins and or Rodney McLeod, are so slow, they're not going to catch him. So I'm really worried right now about the linebacking depth. I assume we're going to try to run a lot of nickel, so there's only 2 linebackers on the field. It'll be Jordan Hicks and probably Camus, but there still is a weak link on the defensive side that will be there at all times on this Eagles defense, and if Atlanta is smart enough and their coach is not, their play caller hasn't been hitting the beer before the game, they'll probably have an opportunity to get some big plays out of that. Going to number 4, bend but don't break versus Julio Jones. Julio Jones had 9 catches for 101 yards in the playoffs, but no touchdowns. Keep him and let him work between the 20s. Atlanta has a absolute dog shit red zone offense, so let's just force him. Bend but don't break, hold him to field goals. Matt Bryant, get your leg ready, bud. You're going to be busy. That's all we need to do, man. And we have the corners, we have the secondary that they can really shut things down within the final 20. But it's between that, Julio Jones is going to get his. Man, he's Julio Jones. There is no athlete. We do not have a height, weight, speed type corner that can shut down. We don't have a Darius Slay. We don't have a Marshawn Lattimore right now in the secondary. I don't think Sidney Jones is ready for that role right now. So we need to just contain Julio, bend but don't break. I mean, we can always hope, fingers crossed, for that fact. Maybe Jalen Mills can take that next step and not just be the finger wag guy that gets beat by double moves. Maybe he can, elevate his game this year. It's probably unlikely. I think he definitely needs to move to safety at some point. But just bend but don't break on Julio Jones. Keep him and let him do his job between the 20s. And then when it's in our 20, shut him down. Going to number 3. Biggest one for me. Steve Sarkisian is still the Atlanta play caller. Doug Peterson is ours. We have a vastly superior advantage. Doesn't matter what kind of tools you have on offense. If you don't know how to correctly use them, you got to look like dog shit. That is where Philly has a massive advantage when all things are said and done on the offensive side. I don't care how many players, how many stars Atlanta has. Steve Sarkisian is just too focused on when the next round of beers is coming, not working on his red zone offense. Give me that advantage, Doug Peterson. Going to number 2, Eagles must control the line of scrimmage to have any chance winning like they did in the playoffs, and I think that is the biggest advantage for the Eagles heading into this matchup. Our offensive line is better than the Falcons' defensive line. Our defensive line is better than the Falcons' offensive line. The Falcons, on both sides, Falcons are a good team. They are a playoff caliber team. Their offensive and defensive lines, probably more so their offense, but they're good. They are good, but Philadelphia is the best, if not the second best. I think Philly has debatably the best offensive line, debatably the best defensive line in the league. So we have to control this line of scrimmage. Make sure Nick Foles gets a lot of protection, doesn't have to get hit, thrown under pressure, causing turnovers. Nope. Let us run the ball, control the clock, and defensively, let's just ruin Devontae Freeman's day. In the playoff game, Devontae Freeman had 7 yards. Good luck running between the tackles. Matt Ryan's going to have no time to sit back there and let Julio Jones make a big play. I feel like if you're the Falcons, the only way they make plays is play action and Tevin Coleman out the backfield. Stop everything else, bend but don't break, hold them to field goals. And the last point, Philly's going to have the atmosphere. The banner raising that should be able to lift this team, get them over the hump. Again, kind of bringing into the underdog mentality. Nick Foles is our starter. All our injuries. No one's giving us a chance. It's kind of the perfect atmosphere to capitalize on that. The stadium is going to be as crazy as it's ever been, lifting the banner for the first Super Bowl championship in team history. They're going to be behind this team, and if home field advantage ever makes any difference ever, it is going to be for Week 1 for the Eagles. So, as all is said and done, I'm not going to be able to make 16 of these videos. Well, hopefully more if they go in the playoffs and say Philly's going to win every single game. Going to go, oh, C4, I just watched a 12-minute video every week for you to tell me the Eagles are going to win. Under the assumption that Philly's not going to go 16-0, I'm leading towards this being a loss. And now, here's my great game script. Philly has no momentum right now coming from the preseason. I feel like the first half, Atlanta is going to dominate. Then the second half, Philly's going to make halftime adjustments and be able to kind of make the game close. But I feel like this is going to be a very ugly first half for the Eagles. Second half, we get rolling enough that, into Week 2 against the Bucs, everyone's going to be like, all right, we'll be able to win against the Bucs and hopefully get Carson Wentz back Week 3. But I think this is going to be an ugly first half offensively. I think our defense is going to keep this game close. But I think when all is said and done, Atlanta should win by at least a touchdown. That's kind of where I'm feeling. But Philly can win. I will still remain. Philly is not one of those things where this would be a shocking upset or anything like that. I think Philly, even with Nick Foles, even with Carson Wentz missing some time and all these injuries, Philly still has one of the strongest rosters with those injuries in the NFL. Philly can go 16-0. They could win this game. They could do everything that I kind of talked about and win this game. You still got Matt Ryan and Steve Sarkisian on the Atlanta Falcons offense. You still got their terrible red zone offense. We have Big Dick Nick with his big dick energy on offense. I mean, all I can say is, even though I'm saying it could be a loss, it's more than likely going to be a loss. Philly still has a chance. Get your dog mask ready. The underdogs are back, baby. Philly's going to bring the heat. Backs against the wall. Even C4, kind of counting them out. Wouldn't be surprised 1 second if Philly gets that win. So I hope you guys do enjoy this game. Let me know your feelings for this matchup in the comment section below. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.